Hi guys, welcome back to the Nevermind podcast. My name is Matt, I'm your host, and I chat to rock and metal bands from around the world. And this week we are going to America to chat with David of the band Revocation. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. Good morning as well. How has your morning been? It is morning for you guys, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, morning's good. I went for a walk. I got a breakfast sandwich, cup of cold brew coffee. Feeling pretty good.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So as we briefly alluded to before we started recording, big fan of your band. And when I got sent the new record, Netherheaven, I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's go. This is the fucking band. Let's go. So I immediately hit up your lovely PR people and was like, please can I chat to this band? I love them. And they were like, sure, no worries. So I've been kind of fangirling a little bit, trying to keep it under wraps. But how has life been the last sort of few months of sort of the last year? Because obviously I don't want to talk about COVID too much because it's so boring and everybody's over it.
Right.
But how's it been?
It's been good. We'll just, we'll put it that way. We did our tour in March with Cannibal Corpse back in the States. Shows were packed. I think almost every show was sold out, like 2,000 cap venues. So yeah, I think we're good to forge ahead here.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. So I kind of want to obviously touch on the new record, Netherheaven. You guys have, as a band, have been a solid unit since 2015 with no sort of lineup changes or anything like that. Your album number 8, how does that feel as a guitarist, as a frontman, as a musician? Because it must be pretty exciting to be kind of on the cusp of releasing your 8th record, but also you're not a commercially viable band. You're not going to be heard on the radio station and things like that because of the type of music you play. So 8 records deep, how does that feel for you guys?
I mean, it feels crazy that we've been doing it for this long. We have had lineup changes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we're still plugging along. I feel like the band's stronger than ever. I feel like Netherheaven is some of our strongest material ever. I mean, I'm probably biased because I think every time you write a new record, it's always your favorite one. But this is definitely my favorite album that we've ever put out. It feels great that we have such a killer core fan base that allow us the artistic freedom to do whatever the hell we want. I mean, I can always rely. I can trust my gut when I'm writing music. I don't have to worry about like, oh, what's the label going to think, or what are our fans going to think? I feel very free when I write Revocation. So I'm thankful for that. And it's cool that we've developed a career over a good long while now. I mean, I remember when we were kind of like the new kids on the block, right? We were like the fresh-faced death thrash band. And now, like, after years of touring with iconic bands, we've developed like a really great relationship with other bands, with our fan base, with the label. Yeah, it feels crazy that we're still kicking on.
Well, I mean that is really cool because that's the thing. You guys are not like you say, you're not cute and cuddly. I mean, you're a very cute, cuddly man, but you know what I mean. In terms of the music you write, it's very in your face, and it is a spin kick to the face in the best possible way. You touched upon obviously being on tour with Cannibal Corpse and things. I don't know how much you want to touch upon it because it potentially might be a bit of a touchy subject, and I can cut it if you like. But Precrucification, which is obviously a song written with the late Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder and Cannibal Corpse. How did that come about? Because losing Trevor is such a fucking horrible thing. And I mean, I'm just a fan of that band. Obviously, you guys are more a personal touch being on the record and things. How was that? And how did that come about?
Well, both George and Trevor, friends of mine. We've toured a lot with Cannibal Corpse, and we've done some touring with Black Dahlia Murder in the past. Trevor became a really close friend of mine over the years, and I mean, we would hang out like off tour together, just like go out to a bar and just shoot the shit and have some laughs and drink some beers. So obviously heartbreaking losing Trevor. I mean, he made such an impact on the metal scene in general.
Yeah.
But in terms of how it came about, I mean, it was just this very simple. Just texted him like, "Hey, man, you want to be on the new record?" And he was like, "Hell yeah!" Like, that's the cool thing about Trevor. He's just such a metal fan. So yeah, he was home and able to do it, and the same thing with George. So I think Brett hit up George, my bass player, hit up Corpse Grinder, and I hit up Trevor, and yeah, they were both available, and their performances on the new record are two of the highlights for me. I mean, that whole song, I think it came out really cool. And normally if you're having a guest on a record, it's normally just like one guest person on a song. And you don't normally have two guys on a song, and for them to be both powerhouses like that, I think it came out really special. It's the closing track on the record. The last few records we've closed with more kind of like epic, longer songs. They maybe have fade outs. With this one, I wanted to go the exact opposite direction. This kind of goes back to what I was saying in terms of our fan base. I think is down for us to have the creative freedom to do whatever we want. So I didn't want people to get complacent or think that they knew what the last track was going to be. I wanted to go total 180, and just like the fastest, most ripping track on the record is the last one. And I just wanted it to tear people's heads off, and having both those guys on there, I think only adds to that. So yeah, it was just as easy, just texting the guys, and they were around. So thankfully we've made those connections and bonds with people over the years. And it's crazy because you look up to these guys, and then all of a sudden, like, you do some tours and you hang out and you shoot the shit, have some beers, have some laughs, and then you're like, oh yeah, these are like my homies now. It's cool. It's like this weird heavy metal fraternity or brotherhood, or I don't know, like summer camp, however you want to think about it. But the bonds that you make on the road are very special, and I've found they last a lifetime because you're just in it together, and it's just such a crazy thing that so few people get to experience on that level. So when you go out on tour and you're all in it together, yeah, it just is one of those special bonds. It's like when you meet up with like an old best friend that you haven't seen for years, like you can just kind of pick up right where you left off. And a lot of people that I've met in the touring scene are like that, because we don't all get to see each other all the time. Obviously, we're all doing our own different things, but you link up and you reminisce about a random tour that you've done together, or just some inside joke, and it just kind of brings you back to that moment.
I love that. And I just want to say, on the note of Black Dahlia Murder and Trevor especially, they were one of the first sort of more extreme bands I've ever seen. And I only got to see them once. They played my hometown in the UK, and it was one of the most heavy things I've ever witnessed. But at the same time, like between song patter, he was just like you said, like so grateful. And it was just like this guy who's like snarling his way through the set and like screaming his guts out. It's just the nicest dude. So it's really cool to hear that was what it was like for you guys as well. I want to go back a little bit to your origins and what kind of made you become the guitarist and the front man and the band person you are today. So do you remember the first record you ever picked up with your own money?
Might have been well, I was like, as a kid, I loved like Weird Al. So like I was like really into like Weird Al as a kid. I thought it was like just fucking hilarious. Still do. I still love Weird Al. I think he's sick as fuck. But in terms of like rock, yeah, I went from like Weird Al, maybe like Bad Hair Day, or like one of those records, and then like got the whole Weird Al discography like on tape. I mean, this is like I'm kind of dating myself now. But yeah, I had the whole Weird Al discography, and then got into Aerosmith, and then I like as a kid I could kind of see like, okay, like Aerosmith, this is like on paper like a cooler band, you know what I mean? Like they're more rock and roll, more attitude, like they're doing drugs and partying and shit. Weird Al's very straight and narrow and playing a accordion. which I think I still love Weird Al, so no shade to Weird
Yeah,
Al,
no,
but
love that.
different vibe, right? Weird Al didn't make me want to play accordion, right? But Joe Perry made me want to play guitar. So I remember, I think 9 Lives was the record. I was like in like 5th grade or something like that. Got into Aerosmith from there. Like asked my mom to get me a guitar based off of just pretty much just like seeing the Falling in Love is Harder Than These music video. Got me a guitar. I had like a Yamaha Pacifica, which is like kind of like a Telecaster knockoff looking guitar. Started taking lessons. Like I think like Aerosmith Walk This Way was like the first riff I ever learned, and just kind of studied on my own. And then like I think slowly I just kind of the timeline was like was getting more and more extreme, and you can kind of draw the line from like Weird Al on in terms of getting heavier and more pissed. So I went like Aerosmith, and then I got into Guns N' Roses, and then I got into Pantera, and then once I got into Pantera, like there's such like a gateway band that so many bands are like connected to that, and it's kind of easy to go down more kind of extreme offshoots from there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, even just the shirts those guys were wearing in like photo shoots and stuff like that made me like go like, oh, who's Crowbar, or who's like I Hate God, or who's what's that logo? I can't read. Oh, that's Mayhem. And then all of a sudden you discover like black metal, right? And then anyway, so what, like after Pantera, it was kind of like I dove into all these different sort of genres all around like the same time. So I got really into like old school thrash and even like kind of modern thrash, and then death metal and technical death metal and all these different offshoots of that, and grindcore and black metal and melodic death metal, all these different bands. I remember hearing like In Flames for the first time, and I couldn't like, it was like hard for me to process because it was like so melodic. Like the vocals were brutal and it was like heavy, but it had like these like super melodic parts. I'm like, oh, this is really weird. Like I was like hearing like Horacle or like Colony for the first time. Like it's super interesting. Like I've never like, I didn't know you could be that melodic with death metal. Because I was just used to like, I think at that point it was like it wasn't getting into Cannibal Corpse, right? And you're seeing like the Butchered at Birth album cover and all this stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, like death metal is this, and then you're like, oh wait, actually death metal is this whole range of different things. It could be like horror themed, or it could be cosmic, or it could be melodic and have folk influences and all these different things. So I remember just like diving into the heavy metal pool head on, and by the time I was in like, I don't know, 8th grade, 9th grade, it's just like metal was like all I cared or like could think about.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me quite nicely onto my next question, which is kind of like, so you described obviously death metal being the umbrella in which a lot of things sit. And I don't really believe in putting bands in boxes and things, because we are so multifaceted as humans and art as well. But if you could sum up your band for someone who's never heard you in like a sentence, I would usually say 3 words, but I don't think that's very fair for you guys. But in a sentence, what would you say if someone had never heard you guys?
I'll go 3 words. Fucking death metal. How about that?
I love it. Fucking death metal. I mean, that's the fairest way to put it, I think. That's beautiful. I love that.
So there's a disclaimer, with thrash metal, progressive, and you can just list all the other influences after that.
Absolutely. So going back to the first record, Empires of the Obscene, is there anything you guys would change, knowing what you know now in terms of your career trajectory up to now? Is there any decisions you'd do differently? Anything you'd change to get to where you are?
Well, so that's a complicated question because, of course, there's things that I would change now. But in terms of like, I was in a totally different mindset then, right? So who knows, like, if we change certain formulas, what trajectory that would have led us on. I just have to say like, hey, I've put out all this music. I wrote that at the time. I was in a certain headspace. For some of it, like certainly like maybe certain songs I wouldn't write today, but as a kid, like when you're experimenting with different things, when you're getting all this music at once and you're trying to make sense of it and filter it through your own kind of creative mind as an artist, like you're going to experiment with different songs, with different riffs, just different ideas in general. So I think some of the times you just need to get it out so that you make room for new things.
Mhm.
We've certainly experimented with our sound over the years, but in doing that, sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. I mean, the cool thing about music is for some people, maybe my least favorite Revocation song might be someone's absolute favorite,
Yeah,
right?
for
So it
sure.
all it's all relative like that, right? Because like once I'm done writing the song and recording it and putting everything I have into it, and then I send it out,
Mm.
it's out there for everyone to consume,
Yeah,
and
for
everyone's
sure.
going to have their own opinion. So for me, my taste may have, in my opinion, evolved or changed. But for someone else, maybe that was the first song that got them into Revocation. And we all know nostalgia is such a powerful thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, for
the
sure.
shit that someone's favorite, you might be like a 5-star chef, but
Mm.
your favorite dish might be some like mac and cheese that your mom made you like when you were a kid, and like that's still the thing that you think about, right? Because it's like
For
comfort food
sure.
and it brings you home or whatever, rather than but you're like this famous chef working in a French Michelin star restaurant.
For
Anyway,
sure.
so the things from our childhood, from our formative years, those memories, those experiences, that nostalgia is so goddamn powerful. So um yeah, something that might be my least favorite could be someone's absolute favorite. But yes, so for me, I think I had to get it out there. I had to write it so that I can move on to new things. And because we've experimented so much, now I feel like the Revocation sound is like fully defined. We're still going to push
Mm.
ourselves. We're still going to experiment, but because we're going to experiment like in a different way, and I think we're only going to like kind of strengthen our sound. Like we found our sound concretely, and now it's
Mhm.
just a matter of like, okay, how do we work within this framework so that we
Mm.
write more and more interesting music? Because sometimes like putting a working within a framework can actually unlock new creative doors, because if you just have free reign to write anything, it might sound disjointed, or it might not have like a cohesion there. But you could say, oh well, I'm not putting any boundaries or limitations on myself, so naturally it's going to be better artistically. But that might not always be the case. Sometimes working within a framework can actually lead you to be even more creative, because you have to think about
Yeah.
things differently. It's like a kind of a different puzzle that you have to solve, which it's just the songwriting process, the artistic process is so fascinating to me, and everyone's got a different process, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you guys just being a three-piece, it makes things, I would guess, easier than someone like you take, I don't know, like Slipknot. There's like 9 members, so that's 9 collaborative people who've all got their own opinions. How does that work for you guys? Obviously, being a three-piece, is it quite is it like yourself just doing the majority of like the riffing and things, and then you send it to the guys, or do you all come together collaboratively? Can't speak today. Fucking hell. How does that work for you guys?
um so I write the majority of the music on I write all of the lyrics.
Mhm.
But of course, you want to collaborate with the members of your band, right? So I like
Yeah,
to
for
play
sure.
on the other guy's strength. So
Mm.
I'm not the type of dude where I micromanage every little thing. I mean, I think I'm leading the charge when it comes to I'm the band leader. I can say that confidently.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I don't like go in and program out all of like the drum beats that I want, because some people get really meticulous like that. Like
Mm.
I feel lucky the way my mind works, like I can hear just drum beats over riffs. Like I don't need to like have a program drum machine in place in order for me to hear the idea. I can just envision that. Um, so I'll hop on. Our drummer is Canadian. He lives in Vancouver, so we'll hop on
Right, for sure.
Skype or Zoom, and I'll just like air drum the
Yeah.
parts, vocalize them to
Yeah.
him, and like I can't play drums, but I can speak drums pretty well. So
Yeah,
I'll
for sure.
basically just tell him, hey, I'm picturing a thrash beat here, or a blast beat, or here's like a kick pattern that I have in mind that might go over like here's what I'm playing on the guitar. Like, can you link up with that like on the kick drum, or like do a tom thing that accentuates that? But as far as like from there, like those are kind of sometimes specific, but like more general things. And then I just let him go. There on the new record, there's a song called "The Ninth Chasm," which is an instrumental song, and Ash has a drum solo on there. So I didn't tell him what to play, but I gave him, that was an instance where he was being creative, and then I gave him my feedback, right? Where I'd say, okay, cool, like I love the drum fill that you did at that point. I love what you did here. Maybe this part, like maybe we'll take that out and try something different there, or maybe that part should be at the end, or that part should be at the beginning. So I think I kind of gave him my 2 cents on sort of construction when it comes to something like that. But I mean, all the ideas that are being created are coming from him, and then he's just kind of bouncing them off me. So, and it's a similar thing with the bass lines. Like I'll come up with like a general concept, or even sometimes a specific thing, but then I'll give it to Brett, and he'll kind of put he'll filter it through his creative mind as a bass player, and then he'll throw some things at me, or I'll give him an idea, and then he'll say, "Oh, what if we did this?" And then because then it fits more with his style. I mean, even just the playing style of Brett, like how he attacks the bass, is going to be different than if I were to play the bass lines on the record. Sure. Like we all have our own like personal touch. So I come up with the music and the song structures and the lyrics, and then I take it to the guys, and I let them do their own thing with it, even though there might be some guidance there. But I'm trying to play off of their strengths and play off of their creativity.
For sure. And obviously, you said you write the lyrics and things for the record. That is such a fascinating thing to me personally, because your lyric writing, your themes of the albums going from this one moving backwards are so grand and conceptual in that respect. Like, you go to like the darkest of dark places. How? I guess is my question. How do you get into kind of that headspace of does it just come naturally out of you, or do you have to physically like go, right, I'm getting into a headspace of where I'm writing this sort of more darker themed material? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have to go into a headspace. I write music constantly throughout the year. It's not like every time I sit down, something comes out, but throughout the course of a year, I'm always going to be writing something. I'm just going to get that urge to pick up the guitar and play and see what comes out. But as far as lyrics go, I don't write all throughout the year. Because I think it is more of a darker kind of subject. And maybe I don't want to put myself in that headspace, all year round, especially when it comes to things like, I can, but I will say I do consume media, whether it's the news or, reading. I mean, it's not like every time I'm reading something, it's like the most brutal thing ever. Like sometimes I'll be reading, an autobiography of John Coltrane or something like that, and it'll be inspiring to me. But I do like to read, horror, sci-fi, or even certain, political books that are, touch on sort of brutal subject matter, whether it's, inequality or, I read Damien Eccles' book, Life After Death, which is he was wrongly convicted and was like on death row for like 20 years and then finally got out. So, books that are from real life, but deal with tragic or brutal subject matter.
For sure.
And then I'll just kind of, I guess, internalize that, and then when it comes time to write lyrics, that I can kind of bring myself back to some of those feelings that I got when I was reading this book or watching that documentary.
For sure.
But certainly with how dark things were, in terms of obviously the pandemic worldwide, but specifically to what was happening in America at the time, and the political discourse and everything that was happening behind the scenes there was deeply troubling to me. So when it came time to write, there was definitely no shortage of emotions to conjure up, since everything was sort of so pent up for the past couple of years.
Absolutely, and I've said for the last few years the amount of just shit that's gone down in the world in general, whether it is equality, whether it is political systems getting whatever. It's kind of like there's going to be some really good metal coming out of that. That's kind of the one good thing I thought to myself. Well, the world's going to shit, but there's going to be some great metal records before we all pop it because it's
Right,
just.
right.
But what I do want to bring in things into a kind of a lighter mood. Diabolical Majesty, the video is one of the funniest yet greatest things I've ever seen. That you guys built or did you guys build the skate ramp in the
Oh
church,
no,
or
no,
was that
that
already there?
that would have been way too much work. Yeah, no, that was
I
already
thought it was
built.
great.
So that's a like a church in St. Louis. It was basically I don't know if it was condemned, but like it it was in a state of dilapidation, and I don't think the city wanted to deal with it. Basically, like I guess some investors got together, or some people in the skate world, and we're like, hey, let's like all kind of pool together and purchase this building and turn it into like a cool like community space, like skate park.
Amazing.
So that place is, I don't know how long it's been around for that being used as a skate park, but I mean, all of those ramps, all that shit was already built in there. I mean, a metal band's not going to have the budget to go in and take over a church and build a giant skate park in it. I would love if we had that level of budget, but this was something that we discovered on tour, and we got in touch with the people that were involved with it. Luckily, they were available, and we used that whole space for 3 videos actually. So there's 2 more coming that we filmed there.
Oh, amazing. Okay, incredible.
In different locations, so the other videos aren't going to look similar to that. But yeah, it was definitely a good find for sure.
I just thought it was really cool. I was like, that's fucking wicked. I love that. So obviously, speaking about tour, you guys are on tour pretty much from next week in America all the way through till October, and then Europe January, February. What do you like about tour? What do you not like about tour? Do you miss sort of home and family and things, or is it a case of boys, we're on the road, let's have it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess as I get older, I miss some of the comforts of home, right? Like sleeping in your bed that's not moving at 80 miles an hour down the highway. So there's that, but I love touring so much. It makes you kind of forget about those types of things. And I think I think we can all be like stubborn in our own ways, or we're creatures of habit, right? Like there's just, we can either get into good habits or we can get into bad habits. But like, that's one thing about the humans, we kind of like to kind of fall into our grooves. So I'm certainly like that, but I will say, I think I'm pretty adaptable. So, when I'm home, I'm in home life and adapted to that. But then once I'm on tour, it might take like a couple days to kind of get over that hump. I remember it was certainly more, I think when I was touring early on, I think I had a little bit more anxiety around that. Like, oh, I'm going out on tour. And, now it's like I've toured so many times. It's like by day 2, I'm like back in the swing of things, and like you're already cracking jokes, and it's already like this weird kind of summer camp kind of vibe. I know we're going out on tour in the fall, but it has that kind of feeling, when you're all just kind of there together, and you're all there for the same purpose. So yeah, I don't know. I just love tour. I mean, the reaction you get from the fans is awesome. Being able to travel, I'm a big foodie, so if I can try some cool, there's some cities where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hit this place for lunch, or just go off on a mission and find some cool food somewhere. I enjoy that. I love to sightsee. I mean, certainly in Europe, there's so much history there. I mean, I'll just get goosebumps walking around like an old cobblestone street in Germany somewhere, or in Italy, or in France, and you just feel the history there. Or you go to see one of these crazy churches like in Austria or something like that are just these magnificent feats of architecture. So all that shit I love, and it makes me miss my comfortable bed a little bit less.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So obviously you guys are onto, and that's fantastic. Getting out, seeing the fans, and really reconnecting with people and seeing friends and things. So that leads me quite nicely onto, if you had to, I say if you had to, if you could make your dream tour, including obviously Revocation and two other bands, who would they be? It can be an exclusive mates club. It could be two bands you really admire that you've not toured with yet. Who would you pick?
I mean, I gotta go like just the tippy top. Like it would be like
Yeah.
Metallica.
Yeah.
And like we'll do like Slayer will reunite, and then we'll open the tour. Like
Amazing.
how can you say no to that?
I mean, I know that Lars is a keen listener of this podcast, so I'm sure he'll be in touch to get his on it.
Yeah, Lars, come on, take us out.
I love that. I love that.
We did a Metallica cover back in the day, and a Slayer cover actually. So
amazing. There we go. I love that. I love that. So I like to end the podcast because we're getting to around that point. I don't want to take too much of your time and things, but I asked two final questions, and the first of which is, what are you currently listening to on Spotify, Apple Music, bands you'd like to sort of give a little bit of love to, who you're listening to? And again, it doesn't have to be a metal band if you're not listening to metal. If it's something, just what are you listening to at the moment?
Sure. Let me look at my Spotify here. Does it have to be like new, or
it can be just whatever you're jamming at the minute?
Okay. Let's say Still Live by the Keith Jarrett Trio.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with I went back on like an extreme kick, so I've been listening to like Porno Graffiti, good amount.
Amazing band, yeah.
Anada,
mm-hmm.
Under a Stone with No Inscription. And then in terms of like some like new things that came out, like listen to the new Christian record. We're about to go on tour with them.
Amazing.
I listened to the new Goat Whore track. We're about to go on tour with them. So I try to get myself in the mindset for tour and kind of psych myself up. And then I'll give a shout out to a newer band, Cosmic Putrefaction. They're super sick. They put out a record not too long ago that's just killer. Crazy riffs. They have a fitting name, right? There's definitely a cosmic death metal element, but it's the putrefaction part is there too. It's just gross. Like the vocals are tons of reverb. It just sounds very cavernous. Just sounds like there's like this like alien demonic entity just speaking to you from outer space. But yeah, the riffs are great. So yeah, a whole mixture. And then we'll go Cobra Man. I love
nice.
Cobra Man. I'm pissed I missed them. They played recently, and I was on tour at the time, so I was having a good time. But I missed this Cobra Man show that I've been waiting to see. Duty calls, right?
Absolutely. And my final question before we wrap things up is a question I ask every single guest I've had on, and that is, what is the best thing about being in a band? You can take that as literally as you like. You can go serious, not serious, however you want to take it.
Writing music and releasing music. There's something that's very cathartic for me about writing music. I feel like it's great for my mental health. And then the fact that it's like a double payoff, because I'd be probably doing this no matter what, even if no one was listening to it. But the fact that I can put music out there and people can listen to it, it can resonate with people and give their lives some enjoyment. Whether it's just purely like on a superficial level, like, oh, I like this song and it's fun to work out to or whatever, or if they really kind of dive deep into it and are learning the music, it inspires them to start a band or to write music of their own, or the lyrics inspire them. Like it, no matter how you slice it, for me, it's really a joyous thing to be able to put music, especially music. I said this before, but there's a wonderful alchemy to metal where you take negative shit and you turn it into something positive or inspiring to people. So yeah, that's the greatest gift for me, to be able to kind of get the shit out that I need to get out and put it out into the world, and people can get some enjoyment out of it.
Absolutely. I love that. And I'm going to leave the podcast sort of open-ended for yourself to obviously say anything you like to your fans listening, to people who might not know you, anything you want to say to people at home listening.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate the great questions. Check out the new record, Netherheaven. It's going to be out September 9th, so I'm not sure if it'll already be out by this point when the podcast.
If I've done my job correctly, this should come out on the day of release. So as you're finishing up this podcast, then you can go and get it on stream.
All right, so yeah, we're just going to say it's out now. We're going to say it's out now. And if it's not out now, Matt was slacking, so you gotta break his balls on that one. But yeah, thanks so much, and come see us on tour. We're going out, depending on where you're listening from. We're going to be hitting U.S. in the fall, and we're going to be doing a full European tour in the wintertime, January, February. So come out and see us play some of these new songs live.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to catch you guys at the London show in the UK, because it's like 2 days before Valentine's Day, and I've got to try and convince my girlfriend and be like, we're going to see a metal show.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your time, my dude. And this will go out, obviously, at the end of 29th of September. I forgot what day it is now. Thank you so much for the record. Thank you so much for what you do. You're fucking brilliant.
Thank you, man.
Catch you next time, my dude.
Killer. Peace.
Peace.